Around 48 hours ago, I helped a friend, a very good friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, source and buy a brand new GT3 RS. 2024 delivery miles. It was beautiful. And I posted on my story just some snippets from that day. He takes delivery of it this Saturday. And I was like, if God called me to broker cars, I would do it in a heartbeat. And I had a lot of people respond to the story of like, dude, do it. Do it anyway. Like, God might have something for you in that. And they're not wrong. God very clearly called me into the communication space. Like, this was the gift of tongue, the gift of gab was what I was given by God. Articulation and offering perspective, more specifically, is the gift. And through my business, Unlock 20, that is where I get to live and walk out that gift. I have never felt more purpose in my entire life, ever. And I've done a lot of things at the ripe age of 24, than helping people navigate their 20s in the mentorship coaching format than what I'm doing right now. I've never experienced that. And that is how it feels to walk in the calling that God has for your life. It really made me sit and ponder and actually really just like sit and almost experience that uncomfortability that may come with knowing and accepting that there are things you may desire outside of this calling for your life, outside of perhaps where you're most effective, that you have to kind of sacrifice and just accept that they're not for you. And in your life, you might even get to experience some awesome things within those industries, right? Like, I have had the blessing and pleasure of owning a lot of really cool exotic cars. I've had the pleasure of operating an automotive channel. And even through my partnership and relationship with Red Bull, I get to attend Formula One events. And through my friends who buy GT3 RSs, I get to experience them, and I get to do a little car shopping and brokering and sourcing and negotiating, all these things I love to do. It just doesn't mean that that needs to be my life, that doesn't need to be my mission, that I can operate my mission, and through my mission, through the impact that I'm called to make and I'm going to make, and I'm filled up in making, I can also experience a bunch of the other things that I love to do. And hopefully one day I'll get to own a GT3 RS, or I'll get to source my own cars and build out a collection, because that's a desire I've had on my heart. Not for the material, not for who I appear to be when I'm in these cars. That wasn't what I was born with. I wasn't born with this ego. I wasn't given this love for cars because of how they make me look. I was given this desire in my heart for cars for what I believe to be a good purpose. Like, I don't think that's an unhealthy desire for me. I think material and the pursuit of, in hopes of finding fulfillment, is unhealthy. And I understand that. I've had these cars and they've done nothing for me. I've been bored putting around in my NSX, my new gen NSX that I never even thought I would own at 21 years old or 20 years old. And I've experienced that. And so I already know what that looks like on the other side. And so more specifically, I want to talk about, what does it look like to find comfort in neglecting all these other things that you like to do, in choosing to do the thing that you should do, the thing that you do best, and the thing that you've been called to do. And that can be really difficult, right? Like, I am a very ADHD person when it comes to business. I always have my toes dipped in way too many things, and it's only when I hyper-focus on something, and the thing that I am most effective in, the thing that I am called to most, where I find success. That was YouTube for the longest time. And this was before I had a relationship with God, so I don't know if I was called into that. I wasn't very attentive to the calling I had on my life, but looking back now and the impact that I was able to make, not only on the industry, but on my audience, I know that was something that came very easily and naturally to me. And so that's why I chased it, and that's why I followed it. And that's in turn why I found so much success in. And ironically, it feels now, looking back, like it was the prerequisite to what I'm doing now. That is how I became a good communicator. That's how I became comfortable in front of the camera. That's how I became comfortable talking to groups of people, and really how I became comfortable in my vulnerability, right? Like, my life was very public, and I made mistakes publicly. I was hurt publicly, made a fool of myself often publicly. And that's okay. That's what's made me who I am today. That's what's made me better suited for this. And honestly, the only reason that I don't experience imposter syndrome in this business, helping people navigate their 20s at 26 years old, right? A formula for imposter syndrome, a formula to perhaps not feel adequate to coach or adequate to offer the service that I do. The only reason I don't experience those things is because of the life I've lived up till now. Both the successes and the mistakes, the wins and the failures, the struggles, the adversity that I face, right? Like, it often may even take you pursuing the wrong thing to acquire the lessons and the wisdom to pursue the right thing later in life. Not everyone who's been entrusted with a lot of success and money has been blessed, because often I believe that God as a father, and that dynamic often gives his kids the things they don't need to show them what they do need, right? And so to say that just because you have a lot of finances or you've been blessed monetarily to say that that was a blessing from God isn't always the case, because I think that will actually be your biggest demise. That is the thing that will tear apart your life, and it is only when everything has been stripped away that you will then find your true calling for life. You will then find true fulfillment and true joy and true peace in something that you got out of that lesson, right? For me, it wasn't through my success or status or all these things that I thought I wanted my whole life. It wasn't through that I found peace, joy, and fulfillment. It was through the forceful molding of my character as a byproduct of that not bringing me all the things I wanted, that brought all the things I wanted. Let me make that more clear. Whether or not YouTube was my true calling, the things that brought, my pursuit of material, my pursuit of status, it was through all those things that I ended up learning the lessons and acquiring the wisdom to do what I do today, which is where I found peace, joy, and fulfillment. It was those things that led me into a relationship with God, where without him, I couldn't have done what I do today. So from my perspective as a believer, to talk on faith, and if you're not of any faith, then just bear with me here. From the perspective in which I sit today, I look back at that as the time that God was knocking on my door, and that was the way he was working in my life so that one day I would open it. And so that in itself wasn't the treasure. That wasn't the outcome. That was preparation. That was guidance for me to arrive where I am today. It's not to say if you're walking outside of your calling in your life that the outcome will be negative. That's not the case. Often you might even be walking in the wrong thing to prepare you for the right thing. But more importantly, and the reason I wanted to make this video was, how do you deal with the frustration or the uncomfortability of pursuing something that you know you should be pursuing, that you know you do best, that you're most effective in, and neglecting all these other things that you so desperately want as well? How do you juggle that? How do you tangibly feel peace in that? And then also, if maybe you aren't very clear on what it is you're most effective in or your calling for your life, how do you get closer and closer to a place, an arrival in that?